5750403. Let's take a look at the odds in the NBA on, you had mentioned the bottom three teams have the equal amount of chances, and that would be 14% for the Knicks, whose record was in fact the worst. Cavaliers were the second worst, and the Suns were third. You sort of feel if he gets drafted by the Phoenix Suns that you never hear of him again.
There is that, you know. It's. I think from a league standpoint, you'd obviously like him to go to the Knicks. You wouldn't mind if he ended up in Chicago.
Yeah, that's about it.
You know, of those cities right there.
Well,
those would be the ones that. You know.
However,
but listen, you know, we always say that about this league, but my friend Mark Wicker, who works out the Orange County paper, tweeted something today and said, you know, the ratings for this playoff so far are like up. Like significantly, because the games are good.
Yeah.
New York's not in it.
No,
LA's not in it. Chicago's not in it.
And LA and New York were out of it long ago.
Yeah.
All right, here's Zion-Williamson, forward of Duke. Here's his 1 year. He's 6'6". You know, a lot of people who didn't see him play much just assumed he was like 6'9", but he's not. He's 18 years old and 22.6 points per game, 8.9 rebounds, 68% foul shooting. He's got to improve on that, and he's blocked almost two shots per ball game. And supposedly a great locker room guy. Here you now see who could be second. Ja-morant is the guard from Murray State. He's 6'3", he's 19 years old, 24.5 points a game, and almost 6 rebounds, 10 assists per game, and pretty good. Field goal percentage, 50%.
There were two guys in the tournament I thought that made you go, wow, and those were the two guys.
Well, how about RJ-Barrett?
Yeah, I thought he's very good, but those two guys did things that just made you sit on the edge of your seat.
Guard out of Duke, he's 6'7", 208, 22.6 a game, 7.5 rebounds, 4.3 assists per game, and 45% field goal shooting.
I think it's going to be really interesting, Les, if the Cavs come away with the second pick, because, you know, Williamson's going to go to whoever has the first pick.
Right.
And then the Cavs are going to have to ask themselves, like, what is Collin-Sexton?
They don't know.
They don't know yet.
Score.
Other than that they like him.
Yeah.
They thought he had a nice rookie year.
Well, it's going to matter how Beilein likes him.
Is he a point guard? So do you take Ja-Morant and say, we don't care that we have a guy that should play point. We're going to take this guy who can play point.
Depending on, I was a little concerned on Cavaliers with Koby-Altman not necessarily being in the midpoint of the look for the new coach. So you wonder what they're going to be looking for. But I think if Beilein has the stuff that he needs, the agreement, whatever his agreement was, it's his ball game starting from the baseline, starting from the roster composition of it.
Well, so, you're not going to give him the authority to make the pick, though, are you?
If the Cavs get the second pick tonight?
Yeah. I mean, he'll be 67 years old in February, partway through his first season. I don't know that you can give him the call on who gets drafted. They gave him a 5-year
contract. They were pretty happy with doing that.
Yeah, but who's made it 5 years in this league?
Well, nobody. Not
certainly
just in
nobody that coaches for Dan does.
It's pretty much league-wide spread,
I think that you pick, as an organization, you pick the guy that you think is going to be your franchise player for the next 10 years, and you don't worry about what the head coach wants.
Who's that guy? Is it
That's
Mike?
The question.
Is it Mike Gansey? Has he catapulted himself into the front office?
No, I mean it's Kobe and Dan. We know it's going to be Dan in the end, but I think it's Koby-Altman and Dan-Gilbert are the guys that are making this call. And because Dan changes GMs as often as he does, it almost has to be Dan. I mean, he'll take advice, but
he's going to do what he wants to do.
He's going to have, yeah, I think he is. And
by the way, the dumbest thing I've ever heard is that because he's a Michigan State alum, Dan-Gilbert, that he picked Beilein so that Michigan
would make Michigan weaker. I do think that, you know, Mike Gansey, assistant GM, you know, played for Beilein at West Virginia. I'm sure he thought very highly of him. I believe Beilein was at his wedding.
Yeah, Beilein's son was his roommate.
Kobe was at his wedding. I'm sure they talked there. So I don't think Beilein was totally off Koby-Altman's radar by any means, but I do think that Dan-Gilbert was looking to make a splash in a good way with a good guy, a good coach who he thinks people will get excited about watching his team play.
So
as opposed to a kind of a guy who comes in here as an assistant in San Antonio or Denver or some
Although they
other
did
place.
talk to a bunch of those guys.
They did.
But some of them, they may have been talking to them to interview them for the assistant job.
Yeah, and you know, when I was on with Jim Donovan last night, Jason Lloyd from The Athletic was on, and he obviously follows the Cavs pretty closely. And you know, I thought he made a good point that you have to give the head coach some of his guys on staff, or at least one of his guys, whether it's a guy from Michigan or not. It's got to be a guy that he knows has his back, who he can confide in, who can talk him off the ledge when things are going bad.
Yeah, but he's got to have somebody who
But
knows
then you
the
have
NBA
to get
game.
seasoned NBA assistants. And I thought what they did here when they put Ty Lue next to David Blatt was so unfair to David Blatt.
No question.
And it was just the
He was
wrong way to do to build a coaching
head coach
staff.
in waiting. All right, so